Hello, my name is Stacy Ladwinger. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Goliath Technologies. We at Goliath are stepping up to assist IT management and IT professionals who are now being faced with new challenges given the recent surge of remote workers during this very challenging time of the coronavirus outbreak. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to discuss how Goliath can assist you with this new increased demand, especially given many are unbudgeted. I'm going to share a testimonial from an insurance company who just last year experienced an increase in remote workers and turned to Goliath to ensure they had not only the right measurements in place to document the end user experience, but leverage deep analytics and metrics to quickly troubleshoot performance issues when they did arise, and then document and prove to management that permanent fixtures have been put in place. This documentation also enabled this insurance company to better communicate with internal IT teams, such as the server, network, and application teams, other vendors, management, and end users themselves to really understand what was going on in the end user experience world and if performance was increasing or decreasing. Now, before I jump into the use case, I wanted to let you know that we here at Goliath really understand many of the challenges that you're facing, and in fact are already helping a number of our customers. When you look at the changes, many of you are now in an area where you're starting to support even more remote workers, putting more users on Citrix and VMware Horizon, which could potentially strain your environment. It's an unknown world as users start to all log on from different locations. Most likely, you're going to experience an increase in number of end user performance tickets. These users that are now working from home are not accustomed to remote working. They no longer have colleagues sitting next to them that they can tap into for tribal knowledge to understand if performance is a global issue or if it's just resident with their own systems and environment. They no longer can have those quick fixes. And as people work remote and given the anxiety that comes across with these uncertain times, they're more likely to file a ticket. There's also going to be an urgency across the business and with management for IT to prevent any performance issues and really be proactive in ensuring that there is as seamless experience as possible versus reacting to end user tickets that are being filed. And this is where the need for documentation becomes so high, really understanding what is the experience out there. Are people seeing a slower performance? Is performance on par? Is it certain applications that are challenging with the remote workers? Having that information will allow IT to not only better serve the different business units and end users, but also prioritize the work in front of you. And finally, the other ask we see from many of our customers is business line managers really asking for activity and productivity logs. Is there a way to track if users are truly working and active in the system? Everyone wants to believe they have the best of intent, but if they're unsure and they're not seeing the performance expected, they'd like to have documentation to go and talk to an employee about their work efforts. And probably the two biggest challenges as you look across the screen of what you're facing is the urgency is high. It's happening overnight. It's in flux. It's changing. And this is all unbudgeted activity. It's all areas that probably have not been tested for and it have not been budgeted before. And this is where Goliath can help. We help companies across the globe of all sizes really go ahead and monitor and troubleshoot that end user experience, leveraging our embedded intelligence and automation so that organizations can better anticipate, troubleshoot, and prevent performance issues regardless of where IT is located, workloads are located, or users. So we've been helping that highly distributed and remote workforce across organizations for a number of years. And what we've done is we've been able to deliver historical reports and analytics to truly measure the actual end user experience and understand before you even receive a ticket if performance is going well or if there's pockets of challenges. We also provide documentation that logs and tracks not only end user activity, but license usage. So you can proactively know, do you need to invest in more Citrix or VMware Horizon licenses, or do you have enough based on the need? We also have the embedded intelligence and automation I spoke about that can proactively alert across 250 different IT conditions, failure points, other protocols that commonly create performance issues so that you can address those before tickets are ever filed. And then in these times, we know that issues are going to arise. especially with new environmental factors. People are using different equipment. They maybe are not accustomed to logging in the way they do when they're working from home. Wi-Fi bandwidth might be a challenge, especially when you have multiple people now working from a home office, kids that are now home from school trying to get online to do their homework. So with all these environmental factors, you need to be able to quickly identify, as root cause something within the IT delivery infrastructure, or is it some type of environmental factor that might be very custom to that individual user? Goliath provides those deep and broad metrics that will allow you to dive deep into that. And this is exactly why a year ago, Penn National came to Goliath. They had a virtual workspace project in play because they were going ahead and promoting more remote working across their remote workforce. And so they were going ahead and deploying Citrix VDI desktops. They were running Cisco software through it, and they were also using iGel as their thin client. Now the challenge was, as they were rolling out this project, they had several different test groups. And the feedback from end users was that performance was too slow. Cisco softphone calls were dropping, and they were overall dissatisfied by what they were experiencing. But when IT looked at the entire infrastructure, they really couldn't pinpoint exactly what was the root cause. But management was hearing that it was unsatisfactory and it was not working. And so they were about to stall the project and reevaluate the entire rollout. That's when they brought in Goliath. And what Goliath was able to do, and we'll show this in a testimonial here in a minute, was come in and provide empirical evidence of what the end user experience actually was, and really identify there was not this macro issue of slow performance. It was a handful of end users that happened to be the loudest complaining about challenges. With the deep analytics and metrics, they were able to dive in and understand exactly where the root cause was for some of these issues. Many were because of bandwidth allocation given the Wi-Fi connection. Some were also challenges around how remote users were working. They had a large audio file running in the background. And then there were things inside the infrastructure that needed to be improved. With this information, Penn National Insurance was able to put permanent fixtures in place, and most importantly, provide proof to management of here was the performance before we made these tweaks, here was the performance after. They were also able to use this data to have more collaborative conversations with end users, showing them exactly what was going on and why there might be an environmental factor on their end causing that slowness. So with that, I'm going to turn over to the testimonial where you'll hear how Penn National used Goliath in order to promote their remote working environment across their virtualized workspaces.
So this is actually my favorite view. And the reason is, it's not as fancy as the topology view. And, I know, Tom, they put a lot of time into topology view, and it's phenomenal. But this is my favorite, but I'm a technical person. As you can see, and this is true, this was actually taken 3 days ago. The top person is a satellite user. So we have 2 satellite users, actually. One person uses HughesNet, the other one, I'm not sure what they use, but they should probably move. And we can quickly diagnose if we're having problems based on the client IP address, if it's internal, external, who's really struggling, who isn't, and if we see somebody who is abnormal. So we always know that those 2 users at the top are always at the top. But let's say the third person down there with 250 milliseconds of latency, we watch her session for a little bit and we notice that her latency is not going down. We can call and reach out to her and say, hey, you're having some problems and you're at home right now. We know, how can we help you? And that's actually happened, that the person's machine was actually waiting with Windows updates, had her reboot, her latency went down and her experience was better. So it's having us being proactive to our users, and that is why this is my favorite view.
Now, early in our project, prior to Goliath, I would receive a telephone call and say that employee A was unhappy with their experience with their virtual desktop at home, and that would those kind of messages would permeate through the organization, and it was difficult to manage. So a lot of that we didn't know. We didn't have the visibility. We didn't know why. So this is an excellent example of how we see visibility. On the left side of your screen, you can see the virtual desktop instances. we've kind of purposely deleted the name, or so to protect those employees. But we can see visibility for each of the employees. We know when an employee is really outside of our policy. In our policy, as folks work from home, they really need strong broadband type connections. Satellite usage is really outside of that. We don't really, that's not in our portfolio of internet that we support. But we do have sometimes employees that are pushing the envelope and working these other, whether they're coming in DSL or satellite, but we can pick that out. We have visibility, and then we can have a dialogue with them to help them get back into our policy. So prior to that, it was very difficult to manage. So this is a fantastic illustration of how we use the tool real time.
The next slide is shows another great feature from Goliath is the connection speed. So what's nice about this is that you can tell what the user's connection speed is at home, not just based on network latency or WAN latency or ICA latency. You're looking at the connection speed based between the virtual delivery agent and the Citrix client, and you can tell from a user if they're really struggling. So this is probably from my favorite view. When you go into a session, this is the first screen we look at, and really is to look at the connection speed. What's the user feeling? Is it really jumpy? Is it stagnant? Is it pretty solid? Is it really low? Are they running DSL and just really struggling? So when we talked about the phone, this is actually a screenshot from that I sent to the user. She was having some problems with the phone. Her phone dropped. The communications kind of stuttered and came back. And we had a conversation with her, like, well, what happened? Actually, like, something happened because you weren't in the building, like at the house. So here came to that their kids were playing video games, which was actually causing drops in connection speed and creating high network latency. So we've used Goliath and actually shared this data with our users with a conversation. And we've been able to create conversations that we never were able to before, which has been invaluable to us. And it's not just a point of time. That's, Director's great tool for everything that it is, but it cannot give us the data that Goliath is able to through the entire session. And historical, and we keep 30 days worth of data. So I can actually look at every session for a user 30 days back. Look at their connection speed, what trouble they're having. So when a user contacts us and says, "Man, last Tuesday, it was just really bad," we can actually go back to last Tuesday and compare it to the day that they're saying it's really good. And we can see that data. And having data to be able to create the conversation has been just great for us.
So what you just heard from Penn National Insurance was how they leveraged the Goliath to really proactively monitor and troubleshoot their virtual workspaces for the remote workforce. What you saw is they were proactively able to identify who was having performance issues. You heard about their favorite screen, where they could quickly isolate, is there a few issues going on, or is there a macro challenge? It was also critical when talking to management, because there was a perception problem that performance was poor from everyone. As your workforce becomes more remote, there is a greater likelihood that that subjective information is going to get back, and one or two complaints will make it seem like everyone's having an issue. The best way for IT to handle these challenges that are going to come up is to have documentation and evidence of exactly what's happening. That evidence will allow you to not only collaborate with management, but other IT vendors, other vendors outside your ecosystem, other teams, as well as end users themselves. And you saw that ability to quickly narrow in on exactly a root cause allowed them to have a much more effective conversation with end users. So when tickets are going to increase, you need to have the information so that you can resolve those tickets and have those collaborative conversations much more quickly, just like Penn National did. Now, we've talked a lot about measurements, reports, and documentation, so I wanted to give you a sample of what Goliath offers in terms of measuring that end user experience as well as end user activity. So if you looked here just on the left-hand side, this is just a sampling of the many out-of-the-box reports that we offer that can measure and alert on performance. So anything you hear us talking about that can be done in reports or analytics can also have alerts set up so that it can proactively notify you if certain thresholds have been surpassed or reached. So here, for example, the log-on duration report will show you different sections of the user's log-on across the entire environment, highlighting any bottlenecks. The IC latency report will show you if portions of the environment is being impacted, such as the network or the ICA protocol itself. And this can be very helpful when you're collaborating with other teams like the network team or the server team or users who may have a home bandwidth issue. There's back-end infrastructure reports to show you how the performance of host systems, storage, as well as overall uptime and availability. All of this will allow you to pinpoint if there's a performance issue, resolve it, and prove that it's been resolved. On the other set of reports, then, you're going to see the ability to track actual usage of Citrix and VMware Horizon, as well as end-user activity, as well as peak usage. With more workers working from home, you're going to have different peak usage times. You might have more uptime now in the evening hours or early mornings, and you need to make sure your infrastructure can support that. Now, I'm going to go in a little more depth on a few of these by actually showing you the visual report. So the first one is important to really track usage, and this one happens to be across Citrix, but we have them for VMware Horizon as well. So before you go out and purchase more licenses, it would be great to understand and identify how many licenses are actually being used. And you can break this down by different business groups, by users. You can also break it down by time as well. And so this gives you much more opportunity before you rush out and buy a high number of licenses to determine what do you really need to support your business. The next report shows log-on duration. And then again, this one can be split apart at the individual stages of the log-on process, a specific delivery group, or groups of users, or even machines. So this can be great to really identify at a macro level, is there something impacting a specific set of users? For example, maybe it's a bad Zen server, an old Zen server that's causing specific users to have poor performance issues. Now IT can quickly understand exactly what portions of the logon are being impacted and provide a permanent fix. This next report shows a lot of similar data around the logon duration report, but is more graphical and shows trends over time, which is great for management. Again, this can really show how changes have happened over days, months, or other periods of time. So if you're putting new fixtures in place, adding memory, adding CPU, adjusting for peak usage time, these type of reports will provide documentation that things have been fixed or haven't been resolved as they should have. And the final report I want to show is one that is heavily being used during this crisis, which is the end user activity report. Here you can select an individual user and identify not only their total hours inside of a session, but actual active hours showing that they're truly working from home. This has become a top request from business line managers that really want the ability to understand, are my employees working? Now we know this time is very challenging. It provides a lot of anxiety and anxiousness. And so what we really want to help is you, the IT pro, ensure that you can deliver that seamless experience and get over the hurdle for these new challenges. That's why we're offering special subscription packages that can get you up and running very quickly and allow you to put these measurements and monitoring and troubleshooting tools in place. Because at the end of the day, what Goliath really provides is that end-to-end visibility into the end user experience to ensure that you can deliver that seamless experience. We're going to allow you visibility into that experience looking at their behavior, such as bandwidth allocation. Do they have a large audio file playing in the background that's impacting performance? What is the logon duration time for them? Allowing you to look at the overall infrastructure, and not just Citrix or VMware, but going into the hypervisor layer, the backend systems such as Active Directory, SQL Server, licensing, all things that can impact that end user experience. And if you're in healthcare, we have purpose-built applications that monitor and allow you to troubleshoot performance around Cerner, Epic, Meditech, and Allscripts. These purpose-built modules for these EHR systems are going to be imperative as more back office staff start working remotely. Also, we suspect there is going to be this heightened need of care for clinicians and physicians, which means they're most likely going to have to see more patients in an hour. They cannot have performance issues, especially at a time like this. So having a tool that can monitor and troubleshoot issues, allowing you to proactively address them before they occur, is critical in the area of healthcare. And as I said, we really want to be here to support our IT pros and management teams that are looking to deliver the best experience they can for this surge in remote workers. So please contact us at techinfo@goliathtechnologies.com. We can talk about our special subscription pricing and offerings that will get you through the next 30, 60, 90 days. We also can be deployed in hours, not days. So this is something that can have an immediate impact and start documenting that end user experience. And with all purchases, we offer unlimited access to our virtual-led training. So again, this is something that can have an immediate impact on you, helping you get through these challenging times. Thank you.